Good evening. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. No sound so far.
Oh, that's a
I
good
can
thing.
There you,
Thanks for telling me. I was talking to
oh, th-
myself.
there you go. Now I can hear
Okay.
you.
Now we're live. Okay. I was saying good evening, Randy. Good evening, Jan. Good evening, Ruth. Good evening, John. Good evening, Kayla Gittel. Just going to share this on Facebook. Javi is away. Actually, Seth is going to roll in a minute. He went to pick up Manny from his his soccer game, so I dropped him off and Seth picked him up. And we're going to get started here in just a moment. Hang tight. Oh, there we go. Oh, you know. Good evening, Jane. Thank you for that beautiful Shana Tova card. It was very sweet. Very early, you send the rabbi a Shana Tova card a month before Rosh Hashanah. It reminds him that the high holidays are coming. It just creates angst and anxiety. Oh, okay, one more share and we are good to go. There we go. It should post. There we go. We are good to go. Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Parshas Shoftim. It is the fifth portion in the book of Deuteronomy. It is, let me just let a few more people in. It's the fifth portion in the book of Deuteronomy and Devarim. Today is Rosh Chodesh Elul. It's the second day that we usher in the month of Elul. So today is Elul 1, which means we are literally 1 month away from Rosh Hashanah. And it's a time to do some introspection. It's a time to have some good, healthy conversations. And it's a time to talk about fundamentals, Jewish fundamentals. And a lot of times, they say the story about a rabbi who got hired at a congregation. Let's just say it wasn't a Orthodox congregation. And first Shabbos, he got up and the rabbi talked about the importance of observing Shabbos. Right after services, the president came over to him and said, listen, you can't talk about the observance of Shabbos in this congregation because most of the congregation doesn't observe Shabbos. Okay, fine. So the following Shabbos, he spoke about kosher. Right after services, the president came over to him and said, listen here, around here you can't talk about kosher. Most people don't observe the laws of kosher properly. The third week he spoke about mikvah, the same thing. He says, you can't talk about mikvah. So he says, I can't talk about Shabbos. I can't talk about kosher. I can't talk about, what should I talk about? He says, talk about Judaism, right? Talk about the fluffiness, the generalities, the inspirations. Don't talk about the practical. But that's not what we do at this class. It's not what I do at my sermons. Not what I do at class. We talk about Yiddishkeit. We talk about Judaism 101. And we go deep. We tackle the idea. We try to understand it. We're open to all good, solid debate and question, even though it's a little harder when you're in a lot of different tech devices. So today I'd like to go into a discussion about Moshiach. We have this vague idea in Judaism that there will be a time, that there will be a messianic era, or we call it the redemption, the geula. The world will be redeemed from its sin and iniquity, of its impurity. An individual who will be chosen by God, an anointed one, will come and bring all the Jews back to Israel, and they'll build a third temple in Jerusalem, and there will be peace in the world, and there'll be tranquility in the world, and there won't be hunger, and there won't be homelessness, and there won't be pain, and there won't be jealousy, and there won't be coveting, and there won't be animosity. It sounds like an amazing world. It's not just a hope. It's one of the 13 principles of faith of Judaism, as Maimonides codified. Believing that Mashiach will come and Mechakel B'Yossi, waiting for his arrival, is fundamentals of Judaism. The reason why so many Jews over the generations have sort of gotten uncomfortable with the topic of Mashiach is because it was hijacked by other religions. And when things are hijacked by other religions, and then they're misinterpreted, and they take our ideas and they concoct them in their own vein. So a lot of Jews run away, but that's a very, very weak response. It's actually a meek response. It's our idea. It's a fundamental idea in Judaism. Our Torah portion in the 5th portion of Deuteronomy is one of a few places in the 5 books of Moses that addresses the coming of Mashiach, and I'd like to talk about it, at least one aspect of it. In the verse, in chapter, if you have the book, I changed my mind last minute to move the class to the house. I only have one book. But in chapter 19, verse 8, it says, when God, your God, will expand your borders, as he swore to your forefathers, and he gives you the entire land which he told your forefathers he would give, as a result of your safeguarding, observing all the commandments which I'm commanding you today, to love God your God and to walk in his ways for all time. So when God expands, and I'll tell you what that means in a minute, what it means expands, and what does it mean that he promised it to our forefathers, you should add for yourself 3 more cities in addition to these 3, so that innocent blood will not be shed within your land, which God your God is giving you for an inheritance, and you will be responsible for his blood. However, if a man hates his fellow, lies in wait for him, rises up against him, and issues him a fatal blow, and he dies, and then the murderer flees to one of those cities, you don't have pity on him, and you get rid of wicked from your city. So what is he talking about over here? So this takes us back to a previous section in the Torah about the cities of refuge. A murderer in Judaism who murders someone after being warned and with witnesses warning him and watching the murder, he only has one punishment, and that's a death penalty. If you murder someone and intentionally and no one sees it at all, God will put you to death. It's not going to be done by the court, because the court could only deal with human beings and witnesses. God will deal with you. It's called Misa b'dei Shemayim, death at the hands of heaven. What happens if there's an unintentional murder? So you're standing on your ladder doing construction. You have a hammer that's, let's just say you inherited it. It's not the best shape. You didn't pick it up at Ace Hardware last week. It's an old hammer that's a little wobbly. So you're not a totally negligent, careless person, but, just somewhere in between. And you lift up your hammer to knock in a nail. The metal part of the hammer flies off, whacks someone in the head, and kills him. You're an unintentional murderer. What does the Torah say? The Torah says there are refuge cities. And those refuge cities are a place that you can run to. And it's actually a debate between the Rambam and the Medrash. The Rambam seems to indicate that the avenger of the blood, the relative who wants to avenge the blood of their loved ones who was killed unintentionally, has a mitzvah to chase you down, and your only escape route is to go to the refuge city. The Maimonides, the Rambam, and the laws of murder says it's not an obligation for the avenger of blood to take you out, but it's permitted. But either way, your only way to protect yourself from the family member, the relative who is avenging blood, is to run to the refuge cities. Where were the refuge cities? So in historic biblical times, you had 6. You had 3 in, quote unquote, the west bank of the Jordan, what we call Israel. And you had 3 on the east bank of the Jordan River, which we also call Israel. Where were they? So in northern Israel, you had a city, I'm talking about on the west bank. In the northern Israel, on the west bank of the Jordan, in the north, you had a city called Kedesh. In the center of Israel, on the west bank, you had a city called Shechem, Nablus. And in the south, in the Judean territory, you had a city called Hebron. So Hebron, Shechem, Nablus, and Kedesh were the 3 cities in the west bank of the Jordan River in Israel, where an unintentional murderer would go to seek refuge, and he would stay there until the high priest would pass away. And there was a whole process where they would investigate once you got there, whether it was intentional or unintentional, and how it should be dealt with. But that was your only saving grace. On the east side of the Jordan River, You had in northern East Bank, you had a city called, this is the joke, right? It was called Golan, which people talk about the Golan Heights. The city that we called in the Bible, in the Torah, is called Golan. In the center, sort of east of, let's say, Bet She'an, in what do they call it? In the Jordan Valley, there was a city called Ramot, and in the area that is what you would call what you would call Western Jordan, right at the Jordan River, you had a city called Betzer. But here's the issue, and this is where our Torah portion comes in. When God promised Abraham, many, if you want a burger, it's on the counter, the bun is ready for you. Pick your burger. You guys, you heard that here first. That's how I play mommy. Huh? You're not hungry? Okay, so I'm going to be done with class in 20, 25 minutes, and I'll come to talk to you. Your vitamins and stuff are on the counter. Please take it. I took it out for you. So when Mashiach comes, there's going to be 3 additional cities that are going to be for refuge. And today's class, we're going to discuss why, but that's the key here. Our Torah portion comes along and says, when Mashiach comes, 3 more cities. Where? They're going to be in the lands of Ammon, Moab, and Edom. The Edomites, the Moabites, and the Ammonites. The 3 nations that God said not to mess with when we left Egypt to go to Israel. Now God says, when Mashiach comes, you're going to get that land too. Because I promised it to Abraham. By the covenant in Genesis, God promised to Abraham that he was going to get 10 nations. 7 of them were conquered when Joshua went into the land of Israel. An additional 3, the Cani, Kenizi, and Kadmoni, which we know as Ammon, Moab, and Edom, will get when Mashiach comes. Where are they located? So one of them is located inland. The Ammonites, right? What's the capital city of Jordan? Come on, you historians. Amman. Very good, Noah. Thank you. Where does the word Amman come from? Rabbas B'nai Ammon. It was called Rabbas Ammon. It was called the Ammonites. Amman, Ammon. They like doing that, by the way. If you look at Arabic, I could understand Arabic already a lot. You know, since the river and the sea became part of our lexicon, a lot of the words they say, because they take Hebrew words, they add a wah, they turn it into the same words. So you try that at home. Take any Hebrew word, go wah, and it's the same. It's the same thing. Anyhow, so Amman is the Ammonites. So inland Jordan, the eastern side of Jordan, where Amman is, the capital, and then south of there you have the land of Moab and the land of Edom, which basically goes to southern Jordan into the Sinai, into eastern Sinai desert. Anyhow, when Mashiach comes, we'll break the news to the UN today. If you want, you can stop by the river and the sea and tell them we're going to come take Ammon, Moab, and Edom as well. And this is the main thing. Those 3 cities are going to become refuge cities. They're going to have within them refuge cities that a murderer can come and find refuge. But here's the $1 million question, which I know some of you are thinking. Even though I'm not a prophet, I know some of you are thinking. And it's not just the question of the Rebbe. Many of the commentaries ask this question. When Mashiach comes, there's not going to be any unintentional murder, even amongst Gentiles. The prophet says, the prophet Isaiah tells us in chapter 2, Lo yisa goy el goy cherev. No nation will lift sword against nation. So why in the world will you need 3 extra? Forget about the 6 that we have. No, we have 6. You could say, okay, we're using the old ones. 3 new refuge cities for what? So someone will say, well, it's only for unintentional killing. And unintentional killing might also exist then. But you know, the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, in Igeres HaKodesh epistle in section 28, he says that even doing something unintentionally means that somewhere deep down you have a flaw that God allowed for you to end up being the messenger for something negative. But if Mashiach comes, it's not going to be negativity, then why in the world will we need any form of extra refuge cities? Never mind the ones we had before, but why would we need extra ones? And it's a solid question. Now the Rebbe, there are those that want to say that we do it as a decree, meaning there's no real logic. It's Gzeras HaKosov. The Sefer HaChinuch says it's one of those things that we won't need to use because there will be no more bloodshed. We do it because God said so. But that doesn't make sense, said the Rebbe. Why doesn't it make sense? Because the pasuk, the verse we just read from Deuteronomy says, "V'lo yishafich dam naki," which means so that innocent blood will not be shed, which means we're protecting ourselves from innocent blood, from the avenger of blood. Even after Mashiach comes, the avenger will come and try to kill the unintentional murder. So who are we talking about? What is going on here? When we talk about Mashiach, it sounds like this utopian experience, and suddenly now we're talking about refuge cities and saving ourselves from unintentional murder, and then the avengers of blood. What are they, all hotheads that want to go kill now? So what I share with you tonight is a combination of two talks, one from the summer of 1978 and one from the summer actually of 1991. So one of them is the 1991 one is from the last summer that the Rebbe had the ability to speak. Even though the Rebbe passed away in 94, but he had a stroke in the winter of 92, and he lost the ability to speak. And so the summer of 92 and the summer of 93, he didn't speak, and he passed away in the summer of 94. So the last summer that he was alive and speaking, he addressed it. But I'm going to start first with the content from 1978 because they come together pretty beautifully. And he says as follows. It's true. After Mashiach comes, there'll be no more new murder, intentional or unintentional. So why are we going to need cities of refuge? To protect us, to protect unintentional murderers who murdered now before Mashiach comes. And after Mashiach comes, he's going to have to go fulfill, right? He's going to have to go and do he's got to pay the price for the sin or the murder that he did before Mashiach came. For example, the Talmud says in the tractate of Shabbos that Rabbi Yishmael, when he would do a mistake and unintentionally break the laws of Shabbos, he had a little notebook, and he would write in the notebook. This is the Gemara Shabbos says this on page 12:2. He would write in his notebook, when the temple is going to be built, I'm going to bring a juicy, fat sin offering. The Gemara says this. So the Rebbe, in a similar vein, says that when Mashiach comes, let's say right before Mashiach came, or even today, you killed someone unintentionally, and the Bozeman Police Department said it was manslaughter and it was unintentional. What are they called? Not even no, even less. Like when you, God forbid, there's an accident and it's involuntary manslaughter. We're gonna give you time served. Don't worry, you're gonna go. It could be it's true. From a legal perspective, maybe you should go home. But from a godly perspective, you killed. And there's potential, right, that you need to fulfill that commitment to dealing with your mistake, and that is you go to the city of refuge. So when Mashiach comes, you're going to show up, and we're going to make 3 additional cities so that wherever you are, northern Israel, northeast in the Golan, southeast in the Sinai, you have a refuge city. But the Rebbe says, I'm still bothered. Why am I bothered, says the Rebbe? Why do we spread refuge cities all over? Why wasn't it enough to have one refuge city? Have one. How many guys are murdering? Make one refuge city in the center of Israel. Whenever someone murders, unintentionally, that's where they go. Why? Even before Mashiach comes, why did we even need 6? So the verse says itself, right? What does the verse say in the Torah? Pen yirdev goyel hadam achrei ritzech, that maybe the avenger of the blood will chase down the unintentional murderer, ki yecham levava, because he's going to be passionate and upset and angry. The isigoy, and he's going to catch you. Ki yir bahaderech, because it's a big rock, it's a big trip. So let's say, God forbid, you killed someone unintentionally in Western Jordan, and the only refuge city is in the center of eastern of the west bank of the Jordan. So you have to cross the Jordan, you have to run all the way to Nablus. It's a much better chance that the avenger of the blood will catch you. So therefore, Hashem said, make 6, and when Mashiach comes, we're going to add another 3, so you have convenience to run closer to, because, well, we're going to expand the land. We're going to be in more places. So we have to have more refuge cities. But here's again the problem. What does the verse say? The verse says that the avenger of the blood is going to get hot-headed. He's going to get passionate. He's going to get angry. Angry? Oh, when Mashiach comes, kind of angry. It says clearly, Lo yisham the Rambam says in the Laws of Moshiach, at the end of chapter of volume 14 of his Yad HaChazaka, the Rambam says, quote, Lo yeh sham rav, there won't be any hunger, v'lo mulchama, no more war, v'lo kina v'sachris, no more jealousy and competition. So we're back to square one. You're adding 3 more refuge cities because maybe someone killed someone before Mashiach comes, and he's going to have to run to a refuge city, and maybe the avenger of the blood is going to be so passionate that we can't make him go too far. We're going to make him stay close. It sounds like people are still going to be miserable and angry and jealous and vindictive. It doesn't sound messianic. It sounds pretty nasty. Or normal pre-messianic times, sure. And here's where the Rebbe really kicks in with a unique approach that I think is so important as we talk about Mashiach to take into consideration. The Torah recognizes the anger and the want for revenge of the avenger. And the Torah actually gives the person permission. And you could say it's an obligation or a permission slip, but either way, it allows for the avenger of the blood to kill the one who killed their relative. That's why we have the refuge cities in the first place. In other words, the Torah is basically saying that to be an avenger of blood is a permitted thing. There's nothing negative about it. It's actual, it's natural, it makes sense, and it's permitted. And whether you take the Medrash's approach that it's obligatory to avenge the blood of your relative, we take the Rambam's approach that it's permitted. The bottom line is the Torah is recognizing that this feeling of avenging the blood is something that's absolutely okay. Well, an eye for an eye, we need to poke the eye. Here, just we kill him. We can't poke the eye out. We kill him. So therefore, the Torah is giving permission for the avenger of the blood. It's not just about, okay, you know what? Go let your anger out. The Torah is recognizing, God is recognizing that in some way, on some level, the person who killed unintentionally is deserving of death, which is why it permits the avenger of blood to do what he wants to do, unless you manage to get to a refuge city. Therefore, it's amazing analytics here. When Mashiach comes, even though you won't be jealous, you won't be full of hate, you won't be full of animosity, you're still going to have the feeling that the Torah allows you to feel about the person who killed your relative. And there is a chance that the avenger of blood will chase down the unintentional murderer, the person who committed involuntary manslaughter, and will want to express that avenging of the blood, not from an anger place, but from a practical repercussions place, from a relative doing what God permits me to do to someone who before Mashiach came messed with my family. And therefore, the Torah says we need to make sure that as our land expands, so do the refuge cities expand, so that the person has the ability to go to the refuge city to protect themselves from the avenger of blood, who may not be coming with anger, but he's coming with a Torah permission slip to do what has to be done on behalf of their family. You're not going to lose. When Mashiach comes, apologies, let me finish my thought. When Mashiach comes, you're not going to lose your devotion to your family. You're not going to forget that you had a relative that was killed unintentionally. Right? There's a whole discussion because after Mashiach comes, the resurrection of the dead is not going to be for another 40 years, which means you're still going to be missing your relative and you're going to want to do something about it. And this putz, you just ran into him and you're like, oh my gosh, he has to run out to Shechem, he has to run out to Betzer, I'll catch up with him in no time. Comes along the Torah and says, not so fast. We have 3 more cities for this person to find refuge. You had a question?
No, I was going to say, a similar, I guess, analogy is that when Mashiach comes, you will be more forgiving, but still you won't forget. And it's the times when you don't forget that you may act upon.
Well, it's not it's not
something like that where it might cause somebody else to jump to the nearest.
There's very, very few times in Judaism where we are told to take the law into our own hands. It almost doesn't exist. Right? That's why we make such a big story about Pinchas in the book of Numbers, because it was one of the cases where it was permitted. As a general rule, right? Judaism is not a vigilante religion. There are times where vigilantism is permitted. We just read about it in Rambam recently. I forgot what the case was, where the Pirchei Kahuna, the young Kohanim, take spears and chase the guy out of the temple. They're very rare time that vigilantism, I know this is very harsh to say in Montana, but vigilantism is not a way of life in Judaism. Vigilante justice, even if you think it's cool and they deserved it and blah, 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 it's not a Jewish approach. There are rare times when it is, and avenging the blood of a relative is one of them. But when many, if you don't mind, men, could you turn off the oven? Just hit the button that says off before the house burns down. What's interesting is that obviously there's always another layer. There's a button that says off. Just turn it off on the screen. See it? Thank you. There's another layer to it. Okay, and let's go down this layer. Let's go down the path of this layer for a moment. What is a refuge city? Refuge city is a place that helps protect you from death. You have an avenger that wants to kill you, and you need to protect yourself. Spiritually, we also have those that want to kill us. Who wants to kill us? Our evil inclination. He's always trying to kill us. He's always trying to get us to mess up, and then he could slaughter us. And actually, you can't even blame him. He was hired for that. His job is to make our life spiritually complicated to see what we're made of. What is our refuge from the evil inclination? What is the Arei Miklot? What are the cities of refuge? Torah. When we immerse ourselves in Torah, Torah protects us. In other words, we become insulated. Yeah. You schlep him to shul, right? The Gemara says, and Manny's going to love this because he has a song that he sings from camp about it. The Gemara says, Manny, in paga b'cha menuvel zeh. How does it go? Mashchei. To where? Lebei. Exactly. If this disgusting creature, the evil inclination, gets a hold of you, mashchei lebei samedrash, schlep him into shul. Go learn Torah. Why is the Torah going to make you protected? Because the Torah, you immerse yourself in a godly wisdom. Suddenly the temptation and the luring of the outside world is not so tempting anymore. You never saw someone, for the most part, that he's in the middle of Yishtabach in shul, right? He's in the middle of saying Shema in shul with his eyes covered, and suddenly he does something totally sinful and evil. Most people wait 20 minutes before they do the evil, right? You're not going to do it while you're connected. So if you feel like you're under attack, go to a refuge city. Go learn Torah. What's the primary body of Torah of the way we understand how to live as a Jew? It's called Shishei Sidrei Mishnah, the 6 orders of the Mishnah. Each order has a bunch of tractates, but there's 6 orders. So in the days before Mashiach comes, if a Jew needs to get refuge to protect himself from the evil inclination, go immerse yourself in the 6 cities. Go immerse yourself in the Shishei Sidrei Mishnah. Go take out a Talmud. Go take out a Mishnah. Go take out a Shulchan Aruch, a code of Jewish law. Immerse yourself in the body of the exoteric aspects of Judaism, the revealed aspects of Judaism, and you'll be protected. But when Mashiach comes, we're going to add 3 more cities. Which 3 cities? The cities that are only going to be given to us when Mashiach comes. And that's going to be the esoteric teachings of the Torah. That what's going to create the buffer? What's going to remove the evil temptation in totality? Today, when you go to the refuge city, you have to struggle with the evil inclination. When Mashiach comes, we're going to have 3 additional cities that represents total annihilation. We're instead of the avenger of blood, the evil inclination slaughtering us, we're going to slaughter it. How? By protecting ourselves with the ultimate armor, which is the 3 cities, which is the esoteric teachings of the Torah. And here's where it gets interesting. How many emotional attributes does a person have? You count the Omer every year. We do this every time we count the Omer, right? There's 7. There's Chabad, Chagas, Nehim. There's Chabad, which is the intellectual attributes, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge. No, 49 is there's 7, but really there's 6 plus number 7, which is Malchus. So if you really want to divide it, it's analytical, emotional, practical, in action. So Chachma, Bina, Das, the first three are analytical. The next six are emotional, the transformation of our emotions, the refining of our character traits, becoming a better, effective, healthy human being. And then you have the practical application of all of that, which is how to live practically. Taking good emotions, good analytics, good thoughts, and turning it into action, which is Malchus, kingship, which is the world the way we know it. Until Mashiach comes, we're not going to have full control and transformation of the intellectual process. We're trying through the study of Chassidus, but mostly we are given the gift through the study of Tanya, meditation, Hisbonenus, all the great opportunities that there are. We could transform our emotions to be a better emotional human being. But the ultimate transformation is when not only do we feel like a Jew and act like a Jew, but every part of our thinking process, our intellectuality, our analytical process is we're also thinking like a Jew. And that can start now, but the full transformation of that, when we get the next three cities, the three cities of Chachma, Bina, Das, wisdom, understanding, and knowledge, the three intellectual attributes, that's going to be when Mashiach comes. So the three additional cities gives us the opportunity to refine the highest character traits of a human being, the highest attributes of a human being, which is our intellect. How often today, especially if you, God forbid, are on social media, except if you're watching this class on social media. But, I always tell people in the community, I read the Bozeman Chronicle for you. Don't waste your money. I covered it for you. I'll let you know if there's anything important you need to know. We don't need two Jews to spend money on this piece of charta. Same thing with social media. I have an account. I'll keep you posted if there's anything important you need to know. Otherwise, save yourself. But my point is, about bringing up social media, is that so often you hear Jews talking. No, but Milton Friedman thought differently. But Rush Limbaugh had a different idea. But Van Jones said this. But Rachel Maddow tracht anders. But Reagan and Carter really had this debate already in the late 70s. But really, this is a discussion between Kennedy and LBJ. Hello, we're Jews. Why is your thought process, your analytics, your way of thinking have anything to do? Soll sein gesund, Milton Friedman should be blessed. I mean, I was going to say mit lange gesund Jahren, but I don't think he's around. All these great thinkers, the world is full of great thinkers. But when a Jew comes to think, we need to think like a Jew. What does the Torah say? What does the Gemara say? What does the Mishnah say? What does the Mishnah Brura say? What does the Alter Rebbe say? What does Chassidus say? Oh my gosh, but Rabbi, the world is coming to an end. And if this one's elected, we're going to go to hell. And if this one's elected, we'll go twice to hell. And read the Constitution, the 7th Amendment, the 100th Amendment, and a whole day with the amendments. Hello. In was kochst du sich? In what are you immersed? In what are you pumping? Where's your passion? Is your passion in God, in godly wisdom, or is your passion in garbage? And it's very easy to get caught up. Oh my gosh, and Candace Owens is really an anti-Semite, and so is Tucker Carlson, and now they could join with Cenk Uyghur, whatever his name is, Ungar, from the Young Turks, another anti-Semite. Who cares? Good morning, America. When's the last time you opened up a sefer? You can quote to me what Candace Owens said, Shem Rishoyim Yirkov, but you can't quote to me what Abaya and Rava said. You can't quote to me what the Rebbe said in a mimer. We have to learn not just to feel, everyone's into, I feel like a Jew, I'm a proud Jew, I have a big high necklace on my hairy chest and it's all over the place and I'm going to let everyone on Twitter know, on X know that I have okay, very nice. Hatzlacha Rabbah. By the way, and I love it. I love Jewish pride. You're convincing me I love it. I love the more in the street, the better. But where are you thinking? Where's your brain? I came into a Jewish home to put up mezuzahs recently. Actually, a week ago tomorrow. Wonderful Jewish couple. They had the TV on. The whole time I was there, the TV was playing in the front a whole day. And the wife said, I said, turn this rag off. No, I can't help myself, Rabbi. The wife is dying for it to be off. She probably wants to meet her husband. If the husband's married to TV, it's very hard to be married to them. But my point is, by the way, I happen to agree with the guy babbling on the TV. Therefore, what? That's what I'm listening to when I have free time. Kendall Lernen, you could take out a sefer, go to your library, take out a sefer, learn some Torah, uplift your soul. Stop getting stuck. Bibi, no Bibi. Bibi, no Bibi. Demonstrations, no demonstrations. Rockets, no. Everyone's an expert on Katbamim. By the way, I've been watching the news for 6 months. I still don't know what a Katbam is. To me, it's just like every other missile. But everyone has opinions. Katbamim and missiles. And what are we going to do in Gaza? And what's the Philadelphia corridor in Philadelphia? What are you doing? That's where your brain is? What are you, the prime minister of what? You're in pajamas and Bozeman. What do you mean you're giving me opinions? At least sit on your couch, take out a sefer, and let your brain immerse itself in God's wisdom. Because I'll tell you one thing from my own experience. When you're in God's wisdom, this morning at 5 o'clock, 5:15, Chavi's not here, so I was able to turn on the light in my bedroom, and I had my Sforim with me. I was in bed as he was on the floor sleeping. I finished my share with my friend in 5 towns in New York, and I took out my Gemara above a comma, and I was sitting here having this whole discussion. Right? I'm learning this incredible discussion above a comma about damages. And I'm like, this is amazing. Forget about the garbage out there. The Torah, ki heim chayenu v'oirech yameinu, it's the we say in davening, we say it in English here in the shul Friday night. This is our life and the length of our days, and we'll meditate on them day or night. And your love never depart from us. You want God's love to never depart from you? Make him your life. Make his Torah your life. Get rid of your XM. I know my car came with it for 3 months. When it's a new car, for 3 months, they give you free. You know why? They think you're going to buy it. They don't realize that if they give you 3 months for free, the only thing they're accomplishing is that you're never going to want to buy it because you had 3 months and you know it's more than enough. Do yourself a favor. Get yourself a 24/6. Manny, where's your 24/6? I bought all my kids, except for Hanalea, this little device. It's an MP3 player called a 24/6. It has classes, MP5, Jewish music, shiurim in English, classes on any Torah subject you want. It costs $100. You put it in your ears, and you fly away with Shulam Lemmer and with shiurim. And many came down one day. He goes, he's learning Daf Yomi. I'm like, this is a father's dream. Let's make Torah our guidance, our analytical guidance, and then our emotional outbursts as a Jew will be healthy, will be balanced, and will bring about the time of Mashiach when only those who kill unintentionally will have to be in the physical cities of refuge, but all of us will garner strength from the spiritual cities of refuge, the esoteric teachings of the Torah, with the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu, when we'll get Ammon, Moab, and Edom, Amman, Sinai, Southern Jordan will be expanded as part of the land of Eretz Yisrael. Shem Zechnish, don't be ashamed to say it. It's our land. Remember Ron Ali Ram? This land is my land. Yeah? Sei gesund. L'chaim, have a wonderful week. Next week, I may be at a conference in a different state, a rabbinic conference of importance. So if you get an email on Wednesday that says that I'm not at class, don't be scared. I'm just going to be at a conference that's going to help the furtherance of Jewish life in Montana, but I'm not running away from you guys. So sei gesund, have a rocking week. Parsha Shoftim, see you in shul. Be inspired, be uplifted, and get ready for Rosh Hashanah, baby. It's coming.